I'm telling him all of this as we're coming home from rec league soccer practice a couple hours ago. And then I just get put on this new group text. It's like, all right, be there Friday at 7 o'clock. We play indoors, so no cleats, wear turf shoes, and that was what we got. So I guess I'm like, oh, I guess there's not going to be a difficult, or maybe his coach's recommendation was enough. I don't know.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. So at least in volleyball,
look at the point on this thing, not to change the subject. This is a Romeo Julieta 1875 reserve, and it's a pointy. Do you like the pointy wrap?
I don't have a preference. I usually, if I'm going to use a pointy wrap, I'm going to use a angled cut. The draw seems to be better.
Okay.
I don't know that I have mine. Hold on, let me look. You can try it if you want to wait. Let's see.
Smells good.
I may have already smoked a cigar today.
It's been one of those days.
No, not a bad day. No, I don't have it.
Okay.
I left it at the house.
Well, I'll do my best. I did all right. Look at there.
Yeah. I like the V cut in those two. Angled and or a V cut.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a little more practice.
We'll roll with that.
I'm going with the little better. So I tried last time
another
to put it in that
Champagne?
camera. So I tried to put it in my camera that's on mine, but it turns out better if I put it in yours. So.
Yeah.
See, that's Champagne. Yeah.
I like how you
Perdomo.
shared the labels last time too.
Yes.
That was nice.
Yeah. Trying to couple of new things with our social medias. We're trying, folks. Those that are somewhat interested.
We are called the Cigar Politico, so we should be sure we talk enough about cigars each time.
Yeah. Maybe then they'll send us some free ones. It's an expensive hobby, brother.
It ain't cheap. It depends on how much you use it. It doesn't cost much for them to sit in the humidor.
In the summertime, it gets expensive. Or nice weather. Today was beautiful.
Yeah, nice weather. I'll say that.
Oops. Uh-oh. I found a problem with having a tablecloth.
That's fine. No, leave it. It's part of the ambiance.
Yeah. So
now, don't set it on fire.
I will not do that. No promises.
No promise.
I did almost set the microphone. That's going to be something I never live down. I'm going with the Perdomo 10-year anniversary. 10-year anniversary.
That's a good one.
I forgot my water.
Right behind me.
We are trying something new tonight. We're trying Twitch. Oh, it looks like we do have one person watching right now.
Is that us? Is that us watching ourselves?
No, it's not. I don't know how that works. I don't even know if the microphones are working or if it's picking up. So we're testing it out, seeing how it works. Got us some little lapel mics, seeing if it works. Don't know. All for trying new things. Ooh, I like the smell of your cigar.
This is one of my favorite cigars.
What was it again?
It's the Romeo and Julieta
yes,
Reserve.
I like it.
I do like it. I did look at cigar-specific air purifiers this week.
Oh.
Those are pricey.
How much?
I mean, for a good one, $800 to $1,000.
Oh, Lord.
That's more than I thought it was going to be.
That's not what I was expecting you to say.
And it's more than I care about purifying the air for cigar smoke. I mean, if you really wanted to smoke inside your house in a smoking room or something, then yeah. But we're out here. This is the only time I ever smoke inside the walls of my house.
I don't ever. One, the family doesn't particularly care for it.
And it's technically not, it's the garage.
Yeah. I'll smoke in the garage if the garage door is open.
But it gets in the wood. On this side I have the beadboard. You can get next to it and smell it. You smell the cigars. I love it.
It gets in my Chromebook. I try really hard. I have to leave it out in the truck.
Yep.
When it's not cold to air it out a little bit.
This is the ASMR section of the podcast where we listen to water pouring into a water
Do you
bottle.
like drinking out of Stanley's or a steel cup?
I don't care.
Huh.
I usually actually don't.
Usually just
as I am drinking out of a Yeti right now, but I
well, I like it a lot.
Now, if I'm at home, I am a glass cup guy. I don't like drinking out of plastic cups. So we save all the ones from the restaurants. Kids drink out of them.
Same.
But I'm a glass guy, and I'm a no ice. Like, I like all of my drinks. Like the Dr. Pepper Zero stays in the fridge.
Okay.
The iced tea stays in the fridge, obviously. We have water on the fridge. And I'm no ice.
If you follow us on socials, I am the Diet Coke guy. I love Diet Coke.
They're back with the names on the bottles. I was at a Buc-ee's today when I was driving down to Waco. So I stopped at the newest Buc-ee's in Hillsboro, Texas. It's the newest one that I've seen. Gigantic. Right where the 35s come together. Mm-hmm. Out of Fort Worth and Dallas. And was going back there. I did look around. I found 2 of my kids' names, and I'm like, well, I can't do that.
You could buy them.
I could, but I can't come home with only 2. Be like, where's mine?
That's fair. You're going to have a whole bunch more.
Yeah, and a couple of our names are, well, really only one. One of our girl names is different. The rest of ours are pretty basic.
None of mine are basic.
Yeah.
Mine are not easy to find. Probably never going to find them. You know? Rangers are off to a hot start.
It's looking good.
Not so much last night, but
I don't want to get too excited.
I'm surprised you didn't have them on.
Yeah. I haven't bought Victory Plus yet.
Okay, can we talk about that for a second?
I'm going to buy it. But now I feel like I really need to buy it to get my money's worth out of it. Because the season's moving on.
But is it going to drop?
Oh, I don't know.
But
even if it doesn't, for me, $100 for all the baseball games.
Yeah, and I was really hoping they were going to play it on the CW more. But apparently it's only 15 games.
15 games.
So you get Apple Plus if you get it if they pick up the Friday night games, which are not going to be very many, especially if they're not good.
Yeah.
So I'll probably wait till summer because
Okay.
I can really engage. Mm-hmm. Like it was really hard. Like tonight, the game started at 6, so we're still in the middle of family time. But
I sort of prefer that on the during the week games. I don't like those West Coast games that start at 9:00 when I'm wanting to get up and go to work at 5 in.
See, it doesn't bother me because I like going to sleep to it. I like going to sleep to it. It doesn't bother me.
Last night I was in bed at 9:30.
Boy, I was not. Just life got in the way. You know, we normally record on Mondays, but today it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Just, it's just life.
It happens.
I wish I could say everything is perfect and we have a great life, but it's just life got in the way. We're just busy too, man. So busy. So where is the practice going to be at?
There's an indoor place in Rockwell.
The one off of headed towards Terrell. Yeah. That's tough to get to.
Yeah.
It's not really friendly, driver friendly.
Which is crazy because it's literally just right off of a state highway. Mm-hmm. But there's so much traffic right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know.
Do you have to sign a contract?
Mm-hmm.
Have you signed the contract yet?
No.
My advice to any parent playing club sports, wait as long as you possibly can to commit financially and commit to a contract.
No, we were told how much money to bring on Friday. Mm. So that's already like when you come before we play kind of thing. So,
wow.
It's not horrible. I paid more for our oldest daughter's dance, honestly. I've yet to pay for any kid doing anything, and that includes the super expensive flute I bought for my second daughter to do band that I paid for my oldest to do dance since she was 3 years old. Like, we've gotten nowhere near what we spent on dance. So
that's tough.
Yeah.
Dance is expensive.
It is.
It's sneaky expensive too. Because it's like, next thing you know, you're dropping $50 here, $200 here, $500 for a uniform, dance recital fees.
It's the costumes is what it is.
That one snuck up on me. I didn't expect that one when we did dance.
The class fees are, they're pricey, but it's almost like, okay, we know we're paying this much every month.
Yeah.
But then it's like, all right, we're in 7 dances and each one has its own outfit and, we're going to wear it once.
Yeah. And then what do you do with that stuff? Because we're in the
She
same
has
boat.
all of them.
We're in the same boat, man. We have a whole closet full of just dance recitals, game jerseys. I mean, like our son, who is only 7, has like 14,000 jerseys. Like, what am I supposed to do with all that stuff? Like, my mom just threw it in a box, but then now I'm like, I'm 40 and I still have a box full of jerseys. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it?
You do like our friend did for her sons and make a blanket out of them when they graduate.
We try to do that, but
Is that too creative for
we're
you?
losing track of time.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be something that we do after she graduates.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
So they're doing this senior assassin. Do you know what this is? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
So last night, laying in bed, and I hear my daughter on our balcony yelling, like, "You can't get me while I'm home. You can't. I have my floaties on." I'm like, "What in the world?" So apparently, you're safe if you have floaties on from the water gun.
Okay.
I don't-
Please tell me.
I don't get
because
it, but I don't
mine's a
understand.
junior, so I haven't fully experienced it yet. Please tell me they are clearly marked water guns.
Yeah, well, that's a conversation that we had to have with some of the seniors. Apparently, the staff had a conversation with the seniors, like it needs to be clearly marked a water gun, no splatter guns on campus. You know, because we had that. Well, probably you don't probably know this, but there was a couple of years ago that a school had to be put on lockdown. Not our school, but in the area, because it was a splatter gun that was been spray painted.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are stupid, and they do stupid things. Did you happen to watch the national title last night?
Until we went to sleep, yes.
I didn't watch 1 second. Not one.
And then I actually woke up and watched the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought Houston was going to win.
Yeah. No, I didn't watch 1 second of it. I'm not mad that Duke lost, because it's here's the thing, like as a college basketball fan in the environment that it is now, you don't grow an attachment to the player. Like I like Cooper Flagg, I think he's a great player. You don't grow attached to them because they're only going to be there, even if they're not elite, they're probably going to transfer.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be a program guy now. And so I'm a program guy. I'm going to be a Duke fan, and I'll just have to learn the new guys. It took me a long time to learn these guys, and not every year do I get fully invested because I just don't know them. They don't draw an interest to me, especially if they don't have like really interesting names, or like this coming season. Well, there were 2 kids that Cooper Flagg, obviously everybody knew that
Right.
guy coming in, but Con Knipple, and then like that name is a little bit interesting to say the least. And so anytime that my son would be watching the game, he thought that was hilarious. So he was like, "Hey Dad, they said nipple on the TV." I'm like, yes they did, son. Yes they did.
Some good boy humor.
Yeah. And so and they got the Boozer twins coming next year. So I was a big fan of Carlos Boozer, who played at Duke. Now his sons are coming to play at Duke. That's an interesting storyline that is already got me interested. But we played in a volleyball tournament this weekend, and it's the biggest tournament in the Metroplex. And it was at the K. Bailey Hutchinson. So the guy there has an ingenious business idea. So as you're walking in, he's like, "Hey, games, blah, 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 blah." Well, then he walks around and he's like, "Hey, brothers and dads, you can come and play video games, and it's $50 an hour. If you want to play for 3 hours, it's $100 an hour, or $100 for 3 hours, or $50 per hour." So you can go in there, you can pay $100, and you can play all the video games that he has set up. I counted 50 different consoles with multiple types of games there. I was like, that was interesting. So I stopped by and talked to him for a second. And he said that his biggest payout is not volleyball. It's actually the dance and cheer guys. Because he said that so he was like in one of the conference rooms. So it was a little bit of the smaller ones. He'll put 3 of them together when the dance and the cheer is going on, because the girls will come in there and play video games too.
Really?
Because they only compete for 2 or 3 minutes.
It's wonderful. You spend the entire day there and you watch, 7 2.5-minute dances that are all spread out. It's great. And then you get to stay for finals.
And then you have to stay for awards after finals. So
It's a
he
wonderful
said
life.
then robotics also, when the robotics worlds comes, he'll have 4 of those set up. He'll have 4 of the conference rooms set up, because robotics kids play video games, and you compete,
that
compete
tracks.
for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes, and then you're there all day.
Oh my gosh. You want to know how I'm winning as dad when it comes to robotics? Our boys especially, but the youngest girl too, because she's that same age, loves watching BattleBots. Do you know what that is?
I do.
Okay. Love it. I mean, they've watched it for years. They know all the robots and everything. All
are they
names.
character robots?
I don't know what you call it. Sawblaze and Witch Doctor. I mean, they got their favorite ones, you know. So we're making a gigantic road trip to California this summer. I've said on the podcast, and you know, my wife and I, just us, not the kids, travel to Vegas often. And so I've sort of had this opinion of, I want to show the kids like where mom and dad go like 3 or 4 times a year to Vegas. But Vegas is also not a kid place. And that's not because it used to be worse. Like it used to be the guys standing on the corners tapping cards on their hands to advertise for ladies of the night. Like that doesn't happen anymore. I haven't seen one of those guys in the last 3 years, probably since COVID. I haven't seen one of those guys on the street corner doing that. You'll get your occasional pair of showgirls walking down the strip who just want to you give them $20. If you do this, you give them $20 and they take the picture with you. That kind of same like the characters in Times Square in New York. It's the same exact concept.
I have to tell that story sometime. That was a very traumatic experience for me.
But the reason I say that Vegas isn't for kids is because there's nothing for them to do.
Right.
Except for there are some more family-friendly, kid-friendly shows you can do. The Castle, which is Excalibur, it has basically a medieval times type show. They call it Knights of something, whatever, but it's the same medieval knights fighting show. And there's cool things to see. Luxor is a giant pyramid. And of course, Bellagio is beautiful and the fountains, and Paris has a quarter-size Eiffel Tower in front of it. So there's things like that for them to see. Mandalay Bay has a magnificent, just kid family-friendly pool complex. So there's things like that. But other than that, like they can't walk on a casino floor unless you're 21. So
is it the same as like in Oklahoma where they can at least go in?
You stay like on the carpet pathway because you have to do that to get to the elevators to go up to your room.
Okay. And
get to the restaurants and things like that. But you cannot step off. You can't like stand there.
So just like Oklahoma.
Yeah, just like that. So that's what I mean. It's like there's a few things for them to see. You can hang out by the pool for a day or two, but after that, it's like that's really about it. So that's why I say Vegas isn't necessarily kid friendly, but BattleBots is there. And so on our road trip out to California, when we leave the Grand Canyon, we're going to drive about 3 hours and stop in Vegas. We're going to stay at Mandalay Bay, which has the big, gigantic family pool complex, wave pool, lazy river, all that kind of stuff. So they can do that. Then the boys are going to see BattleBots that night. The girls
Blue Man?
No, the girls are going to see a Harry Potter.
Okay.
They take all 7 Harry Potter books and put them into one show and make it comedy.
Okay.
They're going to see that, and then we head out the next morning and head to Sequoia National Park.
Okay.
So they're going to get to see like, hey, this is the Aria. This is where mom and dad stay all the time. It's really pretty. Let's walk through it, and you can see it's beautiful. And then here has a great pool complex. We'll have a big pool day, fun day. That night they'll see BattleBots, and like we got good seats.
Cool.
When they walk them in on like it's not like a red carpet, but it's a platform.
Right.
We're sitting just off to the side of that. So they'll get to see them all staging and come in, and then also be able to see them fight in the ring. So I'm excited for them to get to see that. And I'm excited and this sounds kind of bad because I just wanted them to kind of see Vegas, like see the strip and all the lights and the big, huge casinos and everything and how beautiful it is. And at night it's all lit up, I wanted them to see that, but then I wanted a better reason to make that stop.
Right.
And BattleBots gives us that reason. So you brought up robots and made me think about it.
Yeah, we're going to make that trip. Not necessarily to Vegas, but I really want my kids to see the Grand Canyon. Yeah. It was a life-changing experience for me as a teenager.
I've never seen it.
It was awesome. I do remember vaguely like the trip out there. I just remember being really hot. Now this is like in the mid 90s. But I do remember seeing it and thinking, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. Because it's a changer. Mm-hmm. But while we were at the conference center this weekend, there were so many reminders of COVID there.
Really?
So like they still, several of the people.
What town was this in?
That downtown Dallas.
Okay.
So the donut shop right outside of it still had on the, do you take it?
Mm-mm.
Still had on the tape on the floor from obviously
The
when
6
we
feet
had the
stickers.
6 feet. Yeah.
Was it tape or like the
It was
round
like-
stickers where you?
No, it was like tape. Like obviously they had tried to scrape it up, but it just wouldn't come off.
Man,
the
whatever
floor.
they used.
It's like there was the green gorilla
5
tape.
years ago.
Yeah, green gorilla tape. Then they had still in the bathrooms. Some of the bathrooms had the mask up signs,
Mm-hmm.
which is
I've seen
interesting.
those.
And then the
I know.
COVID washing your hands signs.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me how that's still
Good things to do, even without COVID.
yeah. And it's interesting
I'm
because
talking about wearing a mask or say wash your hands.
well, and if you're sick, it's like
If you're sick in a crowd, things like that. Yeah.
wear a mask.
A good one.
An N95. I'm judging you if you're wearing a medical mask in the convention center.
Yeah.
But an N95, I don't know. I don't know what your personal, if you have cancer or something like that.
Yeah.
Especially like there were several elderly people there, like obviously in their 70s or 80s year old watching their grandkids. And they're obviously masking for a particular reason.
And not to beat a dead horse, but I got no problem if you want to go just wear a mask, go wear a mask. But just don't make me have to wear one everywhere I go.
Same.
Like, never mind. We don't need to bring that up.
Yeah, I think that's probably best we avoid that conversation.
I got nothing positive to say about that.
No, me neither. Me neither. Where do you want to start, man? We got a lot to cover tonight. Let's discuss Signalgate, because we didn't really talk about that. That's a little bit of an older news story.
It is, and I'm glad we didn't, because I read a story in The Guardian a couple days ago. It posted 2 days ago that really got down to the details of how that actually happened. And I was like, okay, this information was not available when this story first broke. And it makes a difference for me. Like, just to recap what happened. We have launched some attacks on the Houthis in the Middle East.
Yemen specifically.
Yes. And so our national security advisor, our national security council spokesperson, secretary of defense, and like 18 people were on this Signal chat, which Signal is an app you can use as a messaging app. And people like it because it's end-to-end encrypted and supposedly more secure than just iMessage on your phone. So what had happened was a reporter from The Atlantic got added to this Signal chat by mistake. And they were added, the person who created the chat, the person who owns the chat is our national security advisor, Mike Waltz. So, of course, the reporter says, hey, I have this and I'm going to run it, and runs the story. And then it's a big hullabaloo, and we'll talk about this more, and we've already talked about it before, but each political party exaggerates the other one's faults.
Yes.
So, of course, the left immediately gotcha.
Correct.
We're going to make a huge deal about this. And so if you were listening to a left-leaning media outlet, they were saying, oh my gosh, classified war plans were leaked. And then you have Pete Hegseth, obviously, taming down that rhetoric, saying these were not war plans. They didn't contain this, the who, what, when, and where, basically.
Right.
So you can't call that war plans. I'm not sure, what qualifies you to, and he got pretty smart aleck with it, right? Because he's kind of that demeanor. He's like, I'm not sure what qualifies you to say what are not war plans, but, I've actually served and I'm Secretary of Defense, and they were not actual war plans. Still not good, right?
Okay,
and so,
can you pause it just a second there?
Yeah.
Why in the world would they share war plans on Signal in the first place?
Yeah, no.
Like, that's probably not the place to share that anyways.
Yeah.
And if that was the case, probably should have been fired. Continue.
Yeah, I agree. And so coming out of that, I am a little surprised. I think Trump weighed the effect of firing his national security advisor 2 weeks in to, well, not 2 weeks, 2 months into his term versus making a statement and firing him. What came out in that Guardian article, which the Guardian, they're British, they are definitely not any fans of Trump. In fact, their pitch for you to donate to The Guardian is, we will stand up to Trump and never back down. So that's what they're using to get people to subscribe and pay them. So they're definitely no fans of Trump. But what they said in this article was, this started way back in the campaign. So Mike Waltz was working on the Trump campaign before he won the election as not the national security advisor, which is the official post he has now, but as a national security advisor to Trump on foreign affairs and national security in the campaign. And so what had happened was, Brian Hughes, who is also a spokesperson, is now the National Security Council spokesperson in Trump's White House, had sent Mike Waltz a screenshot of an email from this reporter from The Atlantic and said, hey, this guy's going to run a story. It was the story about Trump disparaging veterans.
Right.
He said, again, this guy's no fan of Trump. He's going to run this story, and he's sending the screenshot of the email that the reporter sent to Brian Hughes, the spokesperson. In that screenshot was this reporter's email signature that has a cell phone. Well, iPhones are handy.
Right.
And it picked up as a potential contact. You know, sometimes you'll get a call from somebody you don't have in your phone, and it'll say maybe so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what happened. And then that contact got merged because it came from Brian Hughes with Brian Hughes's contact. So months later in March, this is like back in September, October in the campaign, whenever National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is setting up this Signal chat, he adds that contact, thinking he's adding Brian Hughes, the NSC spokesperson, but that number attached to it is this reporter from The Atlantic. That all makes sense to me. I think at this point, the only thing that doesn't make sense to me is, A, why are we really talking on Signal? It was an approved method of communication for the Trump White House. They say that's the only thing they can use that's the most secure, that you can talk between agencies. Yeah. I don't know. The other side of that is, are you saying that the National Security Advisor has never messaged the National Security Council spokesperson on Signal between September and March and noticed that it was going to the wrong guy? Maybe not, but that still seems...
Maybe not on that app?
Yeah, maybe just regular text message because they weren't trying to keep it super secure. But you'd think when you're the NSA and you're messaging the NSC spokesperson, you would think there are some secure communications during that 6-month period.
Another reason I'm glad we don't do this every day.
Yeah.
Because this would be a big conversation that we would have had right at the bat. Like, how do you respond to this? Who needs to be fired? Blah, blah, blah.
At the beginning, I was all on board for Mike Waltz to be fired. Now I'm not on that bandwagon. I can see the case for, a hand slapping, giving him a mea culpa, and keeping him around. But I'm not completely opposed to.
Yeah, it's a big mistake.
Him still being fired. It's a big deal.
It's a big mistake, and I think Trump's gonna have to weigh his options on a lot of this stuff, because if he's quick to pass judgment when there is a mistake that happens. Mm-hmm. He can't go back on that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I think that a lot of times we as Americans want a quick response to certain aspects of our government, and it's never quick enough.
Yeah.
And this is one of those cases where let's let the dust settle. Let's see what actually happened and then go from there.
Yeah.
Because then you also... this isn't just with Trump, but with Biden too. Like, I often wondered, like, how much am I hearing is the truth? Mm-hmm. Okay, is any of this, is it real? First off, that's the first question I have to always ask myself. Am what I'm reading, is this real?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to tell. Like, it's hard to determine like what is an actual source and what is not an actual source. And sometimes it's all a lie.
And that's what I mean, because I think, say what you will about Trump, one thing you cannot ding him on, one thing you cannot say about him is that he has not been transparent. He has been so accessible. Caroline Leavitt, his press secretary, has gotten up there every single day and opened the book and taken so many questions, so much more than we saw from Biden. And I know that's honestly, like, Democrats, you're not going to want to hear this, but that's a bad example of a transparent White House, because Biden was just non-existent and he never did press conferences and he never made himself available to the press. And Trump has done it 100 times in the 2 months he's been in office.
Yeah.
2.5 months he's been in office. So like, he has that as a hallmark already. Like, say what you will, whether you agree with him or not, he has been transparent. He has been accessible, and he has taken questions at length from the media.
From both sides.
From both sides, and sat there and answered the question and taken the heat and to answer the hard questions. Like, he's done that.
Yeah.
And then, so for something like this to happen, it's like, don't lose that capital. Don't lose that credibility over something like this.
Right.
Because like, that's the one thing that you want from your president and that you can't say is like, he is accessible, he's transparent, and you can feel that, like, you may not agree with everything he does, but he is out there putting himself forward and being transparent with the American people. And this whole story has just been kind of like, Mike Waltz, the very next day the story broke, was on with Laura Ingraham, and like, his answers were just mushy and wishy-washy. And I'm like, man, this doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
That's why I was on the Fire Mike Waltz bandwagon, because I was like, okay, that guy's lying about something. And I know he's the national security advisor and he can't probably say everything, but if he can't, and if it was things that the public doesn't need to know, but it was on a signal chat, you're not making a strong case for keeping your job, to me.
I concur. I don't really have a rebuttal or anything to that, because to me, here's my question. It's become a non-story almost now.
I know it's not apples and apples, but if you strongly disagree and think that it was much ado about nothing, if that had come out of the Biden White House, what would you be saying? That's your litmus test.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
If that had happened,
I agree on that stat.
If that had happened in the Biden White House, what would you be saying?
Yeah. Are you asking me specifically?
No. Just okay. It's a rhetorical
question. Because like,
question.
for me, I'm in the same boat I am right now. Now, my opinion probably would have been different in Obama, because it's like, now I don't know. In the last 12 to 15 years, it's so hard to tell what's real and what's not, what's biased and what's unbiased.
Well, you saw Obama's first press secretary this week, Sam Gibbs. Did you? Because Obama did drone attacks, right?
Right.
He ran on this whole thing about, we're not doing that, and he did drone attacks, and that was. And Sam Gibbs is out there this week saying he was told by the White House, don't acknowledge that even exists. He was told it's a national security matter. So when he would take questions from the press about drone attacks, he was told by the White House he could not answer that question. Not only that, he could not even acknowledge that the program existed. And then you have, like, obviously reports from the Middle East of drone attacks. So like, that's not being you can't give all the details. Obviously, I understand there's national security concerns, but you can't just like flat out not acknowledge that it exists. Yeah. That's not being transparent.
I agree with you. And I think too, we have and I've said this before, and it's going to continue to be a topic of conversation. It's like they've forgotten that video existed. Mm-hmm. And we can jump into the tariffs in just a minute, but did they forget? Like, Bernie Sanders has been one that's come up on my feed a ton about talking about tariffs. Yeah. Obama, Clinton. I mean,
Chuck Schumer called, 20 years ago, called for one against China. Like
Nancy Pelosi.
He called for a 22.7% tariff on China about 20 years ago.
And it's like they forgot C-SPAN existed. And all of that is archived. Because
he was on the floor of the Senate making this pitch.
But then I'm like, too, it's so bizarre that we're literally watching the party flip happen in person.
Yeah.
Because the things that Trump is saying is what a Democrat would have said 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's bizarre in my own mind, that I'm like, and you and I have not spoken at all at length until we're about to have a conversation about tariffs. It's bizarre for me to think that I'm agreeing with something that I would have been somewhat against 20 years ago. And like, I see people who were never going to vote Democrat agreeing with Democratic ideas.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, guys, do you realize what you're saying here, right? Because you're agreeing with this. but do you really know what's about to happen?
Yeah, there's just so much nuance out there, and I don't know if we'll ever get back to being able to say any political idea whatsoever. I see some good things, I see some bad things, because, it's like you say today, whether it's tariffs or whatever, it's like you're either for it or against it. And you don't find anyone like, yeah, there's some good here. I mean, you do with normal people. I'm talking to a lot of normal, just me and you types that are like, yeah, I can see the good reasons here, but this also, I don't like this over here. But just when it comes to politics, it's hard to find people politically that'll be like, okay, this isn't perfect, but it's a system that we have. It's what we have at our disposal. And it's like, Cory Booker broke Strom Thurmond's non-filibuster record this past week, doing a 24-hour. It wasn't a filibuster because he wasn't speaking against a specific piece of legislation. I'm not trying to get down in the weeds here.
Okay,
but I do want to say
that does
silly.
matter. That does matter.
It does, because I do want to bring it up because I think it's silly that you went and talked for over 24 hours, broke the previous filibuster record, but all you're doing was like opposing Trump. You weren't opposing actual legislation.
So
you weren't keeping debate from happening on
according
anything.
to what I read. Now, again, this is just how I understand parliamentary rules. Mike Johnson could have gotten up there and stopped it because he wasn't ever specifically speaking about something that was on the floor. Is that correct?
No, I mean, Mike Johnson's a House.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
John Thune.
John Thune could have stopped it.
I don't know. I feel like he would have.
Okay.
But he's not going to let him go that long.
He never spoke about it. It's just like what you just said.
Yeah, it wasn't any specific legislation. And like talking about the party flipping, we'll just kind of be all over the place on this topic. Like the record he broke with Strom Thurmond's, who was at that time a Democrat, flipped to Republicans later. But the record was Strom Thurmond in 1957 opposing the Civil Rights Act as a Dixiecrat, which is interesting because it's like you had this entire faction of Democrats that we call the Dixiecrats of the South that were basically conservatives when it comes to everything else, but they were, more, I'm not going to say pro-slavery. It was well after that time, but very protectionist.
Pro-Jim Crow. How about you say that?
Pro-Jim Crow, very protectionist of the South.
Correct.
On that issue. And the Republicans were the ones pushing the Civil Rights Act, along with, you have, of course, Johnson, after Kennedy, the later developments in the 60s saw that. Johnson allowed it to happen more or less. Kennedy supported it later after this time. And that's why these guys were Democrats. It's like they would have been Republicans, but they couldn't get on board with not being protectionist of the South and Jim Crow. And so they were Democrats. And that's what we call them Dixiecrats. But it's like, that's what I mean. There's nuance there. You have this entire, that doesn't exist anymore, but political sub-party of the Democrats who were basically conservative in all ways, but were Democrats because of this one issue. And they were Democrats because the other party supported this one issue.
There's a lot of irony that goes into that.
I know. It's just, but that still exists today. Like at some point we really got polarized, and I do feel like it was post 9/11. I think different people can put different.
Define what you mean by polarized in what way?
You have to hate the other party for everything they stand for. Reagan, for what he was, got landslide electoral victories in the country. Won every state except for his opponent's state. In 84. So you have very, very strong conservative Republican, but getting overwhelming support in the country, getting behind this person and saying, this is who we want. Like second term, normally presidents lose popularity. Reagan's out there winning 49 states.
Right.
So but I feel like then you get into like H.W. Bush just wasn't great, right? The No New Taxes pledge torpedoed him. That you could probably normally you can't say this, but you could probably say that was the one thing that kept him from winning again, aside from Bill Clinton just being so charismatic.
Correct.
But you even had Republican support for Bill Clinton.
Correct.
Okay. And then W comes in, and that's when I think it really started, was with the war after 9/11. But at the same time, like, try to imagine this happening today. You have a Republican president, and his signature piece of legislation, No Child Left Behind, the main sponsor in the Senate is a Democrat, not only Democrat, but Ted Kennedy.
Right.
So George W. Bush and Ted Kennedy, like, come
Polar
together
opposites. Yep.
and pass a signature piece of legislation. Like, you cannot imagine that happening today.
No.
It cannot happen today. So some point during that presidency.
So folks who don't know, it would be like Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump coming together to write a piece of legislation.
A huge, like, not just like trying to pass the budget to get it through, something like that.
Like
huge
generational.
Like, it changes a landscape. Like, they had to compromise and reach across the aisle.
Correct.
And you know, so I think towards the end, and because of the war weariness and WMDs in Iraq and all of that, started that polarization. Obama certainly fueled that fire. You know, race baiting, you know, those types of things, really just saying you're either with me or against me, and kind of leading with a fist, so to speak. You didn't see a lot of reaching across the aisle from Obama. And then, of course, like, I'm not going to say Trump did any better at all.
No.
Extremely polarizing. Biden comes along. I mean, completely, you know, we're on just two different timelines going through time right now. So I don't know if we can ever get back to some time where we can say, like I'm about to say, in my opinion, about these tariffs, there's some good and there's some bad. And you've got to be okay with that, because you've got to understand, like, even capitalism is a great economic system. And I think it's the best economic system in the world. It's not perfect, but it's the system we have, and it's the system that works.
Right. I think the biggest thing that we have to agree on, at least for me, and I think I've said this before, you can't be married to your ideas.
Mm.
You can't. You have to be open to conversation. You have to be open to topics. You have to be open to listen to what someone has to say. And then you make your decision on what you're going to support in that moment. And then if someone comes along with a better political idea, it's okay to be okay with it.
Yeah.
You don't have to hate it.
It's also okay for your opponent to have a good idea.
Yeah. And I don't understand why that's such a bad thing.
Or an idea you can at least live with and work with and
exactly.
compromise with.
And I think that we talked a little bit about this last week or the week before about the American the Affordable Health Care Act, right? There were parts of it that the idea I was okay with. Now I didn't agree with everything that Obama said about it, but I could get on board with it. But now we see where the holes are in it, and we need to make an adjustment. Again, No Child Left Behind. We now know where those 20 years later. We know where the holes are, and we need to fix it.
Yeah.
But just leaving it and doing nothing to it is not admitting defeat. Because guess what, guys? We're on the same freaking team. That's another thing that drives me crazy, is when I look at what some people post on the socials, and I see something, like I sent something to my brother-in-law today, and I was just like, this is just not okay. I don't really want to dive too much into what it was, because that's not who we are or what we are. But like, it was basically like a child's YouTuber has been accused of something that I didn't even know existed, because I'm not in that world of having little bitty kids. You know what I mean? And the person that posted it was like, how is this okay? Why are you going against it? And it's like, look, guys, we're on the same team. If a person posts something that you don't agree with, it's okay. You don't have to click on it. You don't have to do anything. Hey, this person has a difference of opinion to me. So before we hop into the tariffs, I want to talk about the track murder that happened.
Yeah.
So for those who haven't been following the news too much, there was a murder in the Metroplex of Dallas. According to multiple news sources and the police report, there was a African-American student who was sitting under a tent. It was raining. He was asked to move by a white student. They are rival schools.
He was sitting under that school's tent.
He was sitting under that school's tent.
His school does have a tent.
His school does have a tent.
Not being nitpicky, just
getting the facts straight.
Get the story.
The white student asked the black student to move. He said, "Make me." Apparently, the white student grabbed his backpack. The black student pulled a knife and stabbed him in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw multiple different angles to this, and I'm going to give you kind of my perspective of how this kind of stuff happens. First off, there's a lot of testosterone going on at those track meets. A lot of male testosterone. Also, there are probably at that track meet is a large 6A. There's probably 2,000 kids there, maybe 300 adults. Nobody's fault. This is not a monitoring problem.
Also, not being nitpicky, I do think it's 5A if that matters.
Is it 5? I thought it was 6A, but that's okay.
When they added,
it does matter because 5.
It's Frisco, and like someone said last week, Frisco, grows a new high school about every 3 days. Like they're growing like crazy, and this, I think, with this latest edition of a couple of high schools, they've bumped down back to 5A, but they'll be back to 6 real soon.
Yeah. They're very large for those that don't live here.
Mm-hmm.
Very large high schools. So the question is how does something like this happen? Where were the adults? That was a question I saw a lot. First off, if you've ever been to a high school track meet, there are kids everywhere. Most of the time, the coaches are working the entire time. Like if I go to a track meet, for example, I'm going to one on Thursday, I will not sit down from the moment I get there until the moment I leave. I just won't. I'll be working the entire time. And it's not even a meet where I have a ton of kids competing. Mm-hmm. But there are things that have to be done in order for it to be successful, not just for my kids, but for all of the kids there. So one of the real prolific football guys that's in the X world, he posted, well, maybe they need to have more staff. Maybe we need to move these meets to a Saturday. I mean, there are still track meets that run on Saturday, and there's still not enough people there. It's not an issue of that. To me, this is an issue of too much male testosterone in one small area. That's the first thing. The second thing is this comes down to an issue of the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to judge anyone because that's not who I am. That's not my character. But there was something wrong with what transpired on both sides.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy. And I pray that I never have to witness something like that because it's such a terrible, terrible incident.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it's such a stain on high school sports. It's like when there's a fight of a coach fighting an official.
Right.
And I'm not equating a murder to someone fighting an official or a parent fighting in the stands with the coach. You have to figure out a way to teach the kids what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
So, for example, walking through a camp at a track meet I was at recently, and there were F-bombs going off left and right. No matter that I was an adult in that. Like, I'm not responsible for these kids. I'm not coaching these kids. When I walk through my camp, if I hear a kid doing something, I'm like, hey, knock it off. Or if I see something happening, knock it off. In my camps, I don't allow them to have music. Like, we're here for a job. This is our focus for the day. So it's also one of those issues where it's like there's a lot of kids in a small space and there's bound something bad's going to happen. Now, hopefully not a murder.
Yeah.
So it's like this is the perfect world scenario. And it's just a tragedy all the way around.
Yeah, I have 3 boys, and even the 2 youngest are both 6. They just turned 6. It's not testosterone, but those boys fight all the time.
Yes.
And I somewhat allow it. We have rules, but if someone upsets you and y'all want to go to fisticuffs, we have some rules, but I'll let them fight it out a little bit, So here's like my take on this. You're at a track meet again, like you say, lots of testosterone. Teenage boys are going to bow up. They're not going to back down, especially, I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all. Especially knowing kids and like athletes.
Yes.
Okay. They're going to bow up when they're threatened or feel threatened, especially in front of their friends. So this kid from
especially where there's girls.
Exactly right. This kid from the other school was sitting underneath a different school's tent. It's the same town. Probably had friends over there. I think that was one of the eyewitness reports. He's sitting over there. He had friends over there. kid from the other school, and you're a rival. You're not going to sit under our tent, which makes sense to me, you know. And so he's like, hey, you need to move. From what I hear of the student accounts and eyewitness accounts, the guy's name, the black kid who stabbed the white kid, his name is Carmelo Anthony, spelled with a K. And he apparently said, see what happens if you touch me. The Austin Metcalf, the kid who lost his life, touched him. Then apparently Carmelo Anthony said, you know, see what happens if you hit me. And apparently Austin Metcalf hit him. And that's whenever he took the knife out of his backpack and stabbed him. Like, take the stabbing out of it and say it's my kid and he's under his tent at a track meet and he bows up at another kid, winds up getting in a fight, and say he gets kicked off the track team. That's a conversation I have with my son when he gets home and say, okay, you made a choice,
right,
to defend your turf. It got you kicked off the track team. That choice did. Potentially. This is all hypothetical. Was it worth it? You defending your turf and bowing up at this other guy in front of your friends. Was that worth it to you? And now you can't run track anymore. I think when head's cool and you come down here and say, no, it wasn't worth it. So that's like a teaching moment.
Correct.
But this didn't get to that point because the kid had a knife in his backpack. And I think there's this, and I don't want to just blame video games, but I think there's a lack of care, maturity with understanding, like, you can actually hurt somebody. Correct. And like telling boys when they get to that age, like, you are big enough. I tell it to my oldest son is 10 and has got 2 6-year-old brothers. And sometimes when they get to fight, I'm like, you are bigger than them.
Right.
And it's just a 4-year difference.
Right.
And you have to, you know, there's this, they're not going to back down and there's a lack of maturity there. And so I don't know what fixes that. I mean,
I know what fixes it. I'm going to be honest with you. It's these conversations that you're having. Like I had today with my son. He punched a kid in the stomach. And I'm like, well, why did you do that? Well, he put his hands on me. Okay. Well, then there's consequences. There's consequences for you. There's consequences for that student, for the other person. You got your folder signed, therefore you get in trouble at home. Right? And so there's consequences. And you know, if you're going to get into a fight, I got your back, but you understand that when you come home, there's consequences.
Right.
But he's 7.
Yeah.
And so those conversations have to start now. It's okay to walk away. It's okay.
It is.
Like, and that's the other thing too. Like we tell our kids all the time, if something is happening and you are uncomfortable in a situation that you don't know what the outcome is going to be, you come find somebody.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You don't know. You don't know what this kid's story is. You don't know what that kid's story is. You don't know if that kid's parents are going through divorce. You don't know if this kid's dad is going through that. And you say your mama, and then next thing you know, his mom is not in his life. And then all of a sudden we have a tragedy. And that's the thing too, that I don't think that kids recognize as much because they think they know each other. Okay. Because they're posting on social media all the time. This is just something that just popped into my head today as I was thinking about this. They think they know everything about each other, but really you know nothing. You know about 1% of what that person posts. Now, there are the 1% of kids that post everything on social media.
Yeah, but they're still fake.
But it's still fake.
Yeah.
And you don't know. You don't know. And I have this conversation in my classroom too, all the time with kids. Like, look, just because you think you know someone, this could be your best friend. I mean, you and I have known each other, what, 35 years? I don't know everything about you. You don't know everything about me. And we talk for at least 2 hours once a week, and we text all week.
Yeah.
And we still don't know what we're going through all the time. And so it's one of those things where at some point we've lost the ability for kids, for an adult to have a conversation with the kid at their level. And I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just constantly reinforcing these, like, hey, it's okay to walk away sometimes. And most of the time, that's probably what you need to do because that person is in a fight or flight.
Yeah.
And if they're a fight and you're not, and you're in fight mode, something tragic is going to happen.
Right.
And I believe that's what happened in this instance. So, talking about flights, did you see in our local town, Mesquite, they're going to start dropping groceries?
I did not.
I don't know how I feel about this. So Walmart has tested a drone program in Mesquite from the local Walmart. It's like a 10-mile radius. You can order your groceries and they'll drop them off at a certain place.
I mean, just logistically speaking, like you're going to drop like a glass bottle. Like, I mean,
well, I would imagine that they'll have like so I used to be in a drone teaching program a couple of years ago when drones were first kind of coming out and becoming more like individual use. And what they were doing is they were testing them in the battlefield, and they were using them specifically for medical reasoning. So for blood supply, like, right, you're trying to get blood to a certain place. Well, you would set out a QR code out in the center of the field, and the drone would be able to scan this field, see your QR code that it's supposed to go to, and go directly to it. So I'm imagining in my head that this drone program is something the same. So they're going to it lands in your neighborhood on your sidewalk. You know it's coming. And then you just go out and pick it up.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
How expensive is it?
As long as you don't break my stuff.
Golly, it's so expensive. Got to be expensive.
Why?
Because in my mind, it's expensive.
They're not.
No. I'm just talking about like the service of it would be expensive. But then, we live still in a little bit of a country. I don't know that it could come out this direction just yet, because we still live in the country, and I could see somebody's groceries getting shot out of the sky.
Don't do that. If you're one of those people, like if I ever see a drone on my property, I'm going to shoot it. You need to understand that drone has the same protections as an airplane from the FAA. That's a real bad move for you. And they're all GPS, and all have cameras on them broadcasting. I am a drone pilot. Mine has a range of 12 miles.
It's also like the whole...
And it's not even near as nice as those.
This is going to make me sound real old manish. But like the whole scanning your phone to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem with the debit card. Like the debit card has Bluetooth in it.
I use my phone all the time. I
can't do it.
You don't have to take your wallet in.
I know.
And if you forget your wallet, you can still buy stuff.
I know. It's hard for me because I'm old.
I'm not usually an early adopter, but I tap my phone every time I buy something.
I haven't even set it up on my phone. I probably should.
Give me all the comforts of being able to spend money faster.
Yeah. Well, and that is becoming an issue for me because I forget my wallet everywhere I go. And I never have it. And it's becoming an issue because I'm like, dang it, I forgot my wallet. Well, sweetheart, you're going to have to pay today.
Yeah.
Because she carries her
It's easier for them.
Linen bag.
They carry a suitcase with them everywhere they go.
My wife does not do that now. Now that we don't have littles, we do not carry that everywhere we go. So Black Friday didn't actually turn out to be Black Friday. Monday, sorry.
No.
Again, another reason I'm glad we don't do this every day.
Black Monday in 1987 was a nearly 23% drop in the Dow. Sitting here today, over the past week, it's about 10%. I mean, it's a chunk, but that's why, like I said last time on the podcast, the stock market is not a true reflection of if a policy is good or bad. Hear me out. The stock market is a reflection of what's going to happen. Oh, I don't know. I'm listening to them. It doesn't sound like they know. We're getting mixed signals from the White House on how long the tariffs are going to last, where this whole thing is going to land. And investors get real skittish on that and will jump ship. And then like today, you have the Dow up over 1,000 points. Like, okay, look at the trajectory of the stock market over time. Go back however many years you want to go, and you're going to see a general upward trend. If you are investing in the stock market to make money daily, that is a business, that is speculation, and you're going to lose your shirt when these things happen. But your 401k losing value right now is fine if you're not trying to pull the entire amount out today. Like, I'm not retiring today. And even people who are retiring today, you're not taking a full disbursement of everything all the time, every day. So, but if you're living off of your earnings, yeah, this is a dip. You may have to dip into some of your corpus, some of your principal, to be able to live off of. And that stinks. I get it. Nobody wants stock market drops, and you really don't want it when you're actually in retirement. That is a big deal. And I don't like Trump saying that you're just going to have to take a little bit of our medicine. Like, that's not, and maybe it's because he's filthy, stupid rich and it comes off. It's just a bad look. Don't see, I would appreciate seeing more empathy. What I would really appreciate seeing and hearing more of is extending the 2017 TCJA tax cuts. And all I'm hearing about is tariffs. Like, okay, I get that that's a solution, and that's my problem. Like I have on the run sheet here, I'm out on tariffs. I'm not completely out on tariffs, just like we talked about a minute ago. There is nuance here. What I'm out on is carpet bombing tariffs, of just destroying everything, like firebombing Tokyo type tariffs. Like, I am great on surgical strike tariffs, but this just, you get a tariff, you get a tariff, you get a tariff. Like, that doesn't work because, like, China just showed you, you can't just tariff forever.
Right.
Like, China, as of today, now is at 104% because they wouldn't back down when Trump told them to. Like, what are they going to do if you don't back down tomorrow? Add another 50? Are we going to get 500% tariffs on China? Like, come on, man. Like, you've got to have other tools in your tool chest. And right now, all I'm hearing is like, we're going to tariff, and then we're going to tariff you some more. And then after that, we'll probably tariff you a little bit more. That's the issue I have with it, is just this, like, indiscriminate, like, carpet bombing, I think is a good analogy for it, of tariffs all across the globe. And yes, it is working, and it's bringing some people to the table. But here's my bigger question, and maybe I'm just wrong.
Okay, pause.
Yeah.
I want you to hold that question because I have lots of questions about this, and we have not texted about this, so I do have a question. I'm not married to my ideas, so I'm open to this discussion. How do you feel about just hold on. How do I phrase this question to make sure I'm asking it correctly? Are you against tariffs in general?
No.
Yes or no? Okay.
Negative.
And that's the analogy of the carpet bombing.
Yes.
Okay. So we've done nothing with the economy for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Can we agree on that? So something has to be done.
Well, I mean,
is this the expected outcome?
8 years ago, TCJA, when Trump was first in office.
Okay.
First year in office, 2017, it got passed. It took effect tax year 2018. That was a big deal. Like, those were really helpful to small businesses. You have some things that are just in the nomenclature right now of small business taxes that are extremely helpful. And like, most of those things, not most of it, a good chunk of those have expired already, and almost all the rest of them expire in the next 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
Will be completely gone. So making those permanent is what I want to hear more about. And maybe the House is working really hard on that, and the news is reporting just tariff because they're reporting what's going to get them views and clicks, and
Gotcha.
people don't want to hear about tax policy. I don't know. But even following just the congressional record, and I follow those Twitter accounts where you can see what they're actually talking about each day and all the motions they make, and it just gets a long Twitter feed. I'm not seeing anything about it. And it's like you have this, like, Trump just like to use his term is like, he like these big, beautiful tariffs, and that's all he wants to talk about and all he wants to do. And you've got to have more tools in your tool chest, and we need to have those tax cuts extended. That will boost the economy. And I think what he's doing is he knows that's on the table. He feels like he has some time. He has a little running time because we have the House and the Senate, and he probably feels like he has the votes to extend those. So he's doing the tariff bad medicine right now, taking your bad medicine that doesn't taste good well before the midterms to try to get the effect of them.
Gotcha.
Where the stock market will come back. We'll see the revenue coming in from the tariffs that'll pay for these tax cuts so we can make them permanent.
Correct.
And then we can back off the tariff bandwagon. The stock market has come back. I think that's not what they've said. I think that's the strategy, to do it so quickly and so hard and so fast to get us over the hump that we're going to have to get over for this before we get to midterms and we potentially lose the House and Senate.
Logical.
Republicans.
That's logical.
But, like, it's not a dollar for dollar trade. You can't, putting a 100% tariff on China doesn't mean every single thing you buy from Temu, or, I don't want to make a joke about it because a lot
That's
of things
what my daughter is really,
from China.
really worried about.
Well, and yeah, because
and Sheen.
I know. And I'm like, well, if it cost you $1.99 and it's 100% tariff, now it's $4 instead of $2. Like, what are you crying about? But it's not just that. Tons and tons and tons of things come from China. In fact, we have a 1-to-5 trade ratio deficit with China. So if we match tariffs with China, it hurts them 5 times as much as it hurts us. And that's why Trump is pushing so hard against China.
Right.
All of the tariff battles you can across the globe, sure, whatever. It's really about China. That's where the focus is.
Right. And that's where I haven't really digested this thought either. That's why the other places don't really matter.
No.
Like the EU coming back and was like, oh, we'll have a 0% tariff. Well, what do we actually purchase from there? Because it's an import tax, correct?
Yes.
So if you look at the back of your clothing, not much comes from Germany or Great Britain.
There are products, but again, like you say, what my question is that a lot of people may disagree with me on is, why do you want to bring back American manufacturing? Why do you want your people sitting behind sewing machines making T-shirts? Like, is it not okay that we outsource that to Vietnam?
Can I offer you a educational?
And I'm fine with being completely wrong about that. I'm just like,
here's the problem, Clint. In my world, I have about, in my career, I would guess I've probably taught 10,000 kids. At least 2,000 of them need a job like that.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't have anything they can do right now.
Okay. My feeling, and again, this is not supported by data. My feeling is there are 2,000 jobs out there for those kids. There may not be 10,000, but there are 2,000 out there right now where they can do a job and work with their hands, go to a factory, make a widget, clock out, and go home. Fred Flintstone, slide down the dinosaur tail, and head to the house. I feel like
Sorry, this cigar is very ashy. It's like falling off everywhere.
I just feel like our economy has a place for the number of people who need those jobs right now. Maybe there's not quite enough. So, hey, let's bring back, and here's what I think, like the really durable goods. Like, yes. I like that my smoker and my grill and I like stuff's made in the USA. I do like that. But like all the, like, dude, like the stuff that is made in China. And first of all, if you want to be somebody who buys a cheap grill from Walmart, because that's all you can get for a grill, but you want a grill and you don't have to go spend $500 or $600 on a nice one, I'm okay with you having that opportunity. But
they're still going to exist too.
But if it's made here, is it going to cost $19.99 or $30?
It's
not.
Like, it's not.
That's the thing. Like, if you're just starting out, you just got your first apartment and you just want to have a grill to sit out there and be able to grill yourself some burgers, one of those tiny little fold-up deals, right? That's like $35. Like, you make that thing here, and maybe somebody's going to, like, please post or comment if there's one of those made in the USA that costs $35. But I don't think that exists. And like, I'm fine with that existing for that. And like, why are we punishing that? Like, is it okay? Like, I'm at a place in my life where I buy quality, but there's definitely a time in my life when I just had to go get what I could afford and make it work.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. That my worry, and maybe not worry is maybe not the right word. My wonder is we don't have anything for that group of people. Mm-hmm. And whether or not we want to admit that they exist is another question.
No, I think there's no doubt.
It's a bigger portion of the population than people want to think.
I heard someone talking about this today, and I don't want to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
It's like a sidebar to that. It was actually Charlie Kirk. I was listening to his show when I was driving back from out of town today, and he was saying like Gen Z isn't accepting this crap that the Democrat Party is trying to pull out, because all that Gen Z was told this whole time is you've got to go to college, go massively in debt, and you have to do this or you're not going to be able to survive.
Correct.
And like we got to this point, and Mike Rowe has a great point against this, and he fights against this, and with his program Mike Rowe Works, is that no, there are lots of people who do not need to go to college, who a vocational school or just vocational training or just an apprenticeship learning on the job is the best thing for them, and
Agreed.
they can go out and make a great livable wage and provide for their families and do not need to go to a university. But our age group, like, and I'm like a Zennial, like a
right.
on the
we fall in that
border
weird
of that Gen X
weird.
and millennial thing. Like we were told, like, yo, man, if you graduated and you weren't going to college, it's like, what's wrong?
Right.
Like if you're, are you? Oh, you're not going to college. You must be going to the military. No, like. It was like a black sheep type of thing if you didn't go to college straight out of high school, and that's just ridiculous.
I think too, our parents would have never have pushed college as hard as they did had they known the massive amount of debt that their kids would have incurred. I know for a fact my parents wouldn't have. Like when my parents both went to school, it didn't cost $100,000 to get your degree.
It didn't cost that much when my sister went. She's 5 years older than me.
And then all of a sudden, it spiked.
Yes.
Now we can talk about
because of student loans.
We can talk about that, and we have.
Yeah.
But I just think that I'm trying my best to preach to my kid. Go to school, get your degree, but do not take on any debt.
Yeah.
And if you have to, that's okay, but understand the consequences of that.
Right.
And our generation and our age bracket falls into this somewhere between. It happens somewhere between. I can't really put my finger on it, but it happens somewhere between about people who are about 43, so about 2 or 3 years older than me, and then about 8 years younger than me. In that window, there's that 10-year window. And there are so many people that I know that fall into that category.
Yep.
And it's like, not everybody has crippling debt, but it's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't know I pay it every month, and the total doesn't go down.
It doesn't change, yeah.
And it doesn't change. So then you have the group that's a lot older than us that's like, don't cancel that student loan debt.
Yes.
But then you have the group that's below us that is not, we're not taking out student loans. And then here this group of people, about 10 years, is stuck.
Yeah.
Because we worked in 2008. The economy crashes and we're like, oh God, I got to go get a degree.
Yeah.
And that's where I fall. I mean, because like I worked my butt off, and then something that happened that was completely out of my control, which was the economy crashing, happens. And then my only source of income was to take out student loans to be able to pay for that. And then it costs $100,000. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where, wrapping back around to the tariffs, if we don't fix the economy,
right?
If we continue down the path that we've gone down for the last 20 years, I'll say since 2008, that's where in my opinion, it changed. If we continue down that path, it's a path of destruction, and then it's what we talked about before. We become insolvent.
Yeah.
And if we can't fix it, and this is what Trump is deciding to do as the leader of the country, I can buy in a little bit, but I agree with you also. Like carpet bombing tariffs are bad.
Yeah. I think if you are just wholeheartedly against this whole tariff plan, I would propose for your consideration
that was nice. I like
that you do not fully understand the debt problem in our country. Like you talk about the debt like it is some intangible thing out in the ether floating in the clouds, and it is not. It is a big, big issue, and we have to, as a country, not only cut spending, Doge, but also bring in more money. So if you want to think about the tariffs as a tax at the border, which a lot of very smart economists call tariffs a tax at the border, okay. But if you don't have the tax at the border, which I promise you is not going to be and never has been in the history of the world, a dollar for dollar, like if a 100% tariff, 104% tariff on China right now does not mean everything you get that comes from China is going to increase in price by 104%. Companies will find a way to cut and trim and absorb that. Just like back in March, Apple flew 5 cargo plane loads full of iPhones out of India and China into the U.S. to avoid the tariff. They got a whole bunch of inventory in the States right now to avoid having to pay the tariff on them when it hit at the beginning of April. So companies will find a way. So I promise you it's not a dollar for dollar change, but if you don't have that tariff, you are going to have taxes to pay on your income, because whether you had anything to do with it or not, I certainly did not. A lot of people did, government did, whatever. We are in a huge debt problem that has us going to insolvency in as close as 2 years. So yeah, like you can pay for it that way, pay for it a different way, but you need, if someone is completely against tariffs and completely against this economic plan, you need to take a step back and take a good, hard, big picture look at the debt problem of our country.
That goes to what was passed today. Did you see? Well, maybe it was yesterday, about the budget, and they were able to save like $1.4 trillion.
Yes.
They didn't cut enough, in my opinion.
No, still not. I mean,
and again, I know that we can't carpet bomb the budget. It's going to have to be very precise cuts, and some of them are going to hurt. And if we, again, it's like you just said, if we don't do something, doing nothing and kicking the can down is what we've done for the last 20 years.
Been done.
And it has to stop.
We've said for the longest time, no candidate is ever going to run on cutting spending and raising taxes. I've said that forever, but that's exactly what is needed to happen for the last 20 years at least. And now you have a candidate who ran on cutting expenses and not raising taxes, but fireworks.
What happened?
I have no idea, but we have fireworks on our Twitch feed. We're learning this. It's a comment.
By the way, hold on. I can't see it on my computer.
Do we have real-time feedback?
I have no idea.
They're probably saying we can't hear you.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Anyway.
We have one viewer.
Like I said, we never said that a candidate's never going to win the presidency saying we're going to cut spending, take away entitlements, whatever it is, and raise taxes. Trump said we're going to cut spending and I'm not going to raise your taxes, but we're going to have tariffs, and that might make things get more expensive. And like he says, take your medicine. I wish he didn't put it that way still, but like there's a
lot of things that I wish he wouldn't say.
You got to increase the money coming in at the top, and you got to decrease the money going out at the bottom, or it's not going to work. And like, don't think that America is too big to fail. Don't think that America can't be Greece or can't be Iceland, sorry. And their economies can't, like, those economies reset. That's why everybody who's like, well, don't own the dollar, I want to own gold, because whenever the dollar fails, I'm going to have gold. Well, that didn't work in Greece or Iceland. So, I mean, cool idea, but that's not what happened. They just reset their economies, developed a new currency, and went on about their business. But like, those countries are just clawing their way back right now. And yes, those are small countries with small economies, but don't think that can't happen here.
And it's going to have an effect on everyone.
And who owns the majority of our debt?
China.
Like,
and so that's another thing that it's not a worry of mine, because I don't think about it regularly, but it's like, how long I worry about it more for my kids and my students, because like when we were I always show the debt clock at least once every 9 weeks or so. I'm like, hey guys, look at the debt clock. What's it saying? How are we doing? Are we doing any better? Are we doing worse? Let's analyze this. Because like, and I don't put my opinion out there. Like, hey, look at it. What do you see? And it's always the thing that always is interesting to me is, and this doesn't have to do with the school I work with now, because I've done it since I've been teaching since 2009. When we look at it, it's like, well, why does that number keep going up? Why? Like, if I spend $100 and I only bring in $90, eventually that's going to catch up to me.
Yeah.
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 And so it's interesting. Now, obviously, it's most of the time it's just in one ear and out the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll occasionally catch a kid looking at it like, oh, Doge did make some cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that number is going up, and this number is going down.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? And then, I have a one-on-one conversation. But if again, you have the numbers on here that in 2017, the Dow Jones was is it the Dow and then the S&P?
That's right.
So the Dow Jones was at 19,000. And as of today, it was at 37,000.
Yeah, close at 37.
So that's almost 20,000 points increase over less than 10 years.
Yeah.
That's not good either. So I wanted to ask you this, because a lot of times when I look at that stuff, I don't have a ton of investments, because it's just, I haven't really ever.
You have a pension because you're a teacher.
Yes, so I don't have to worry about that too terribly much, unless we have like a Tim Waltz up there, bashing the people that my stock is owned in. Yeah. That was a bad idea, by the way.
Idea.
But I wonder if there is a natural correction in the market about to happen. And is this natural correction, like if you look at it, you want that graph to grow slowly. And if I did my math correctly, based on where it's at in the history, we should be somewhere between, I think I did it, it was like 29,000 is where we should be at right now.
But it grows. It's one of those things that grows not linearly, but exponentially. So the more investment you have in the market, it builds on itself faster the more it grows.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
So, but you can't have 10%, 30%, 40% growth every year without some sort of natural correction, correct?
Well, I mean, think about what it represents. It represents money that's being invested into companies.
Okay.
And it's only like, that's not the entire stock market. The Dow is it's called the DG, it's the industrial average. So it's your long-lived companies in the U.S. S&P is more of your smaller companies. The NASDAQ is your tech companies, which as of Monday, the NASDAQ was actually up. The Dow and the S&P were still down as of yesterday. But so that's kind of your representation. It's like is the whole market, is the whole stock market up? No, but the NASDAQ was, because tech companies, your Apple, your Alphabet, which is Google, were up. So like what that represents is those companies growing and expanding and getting bigger. And it's what you're looking at is not like the overall American economy. It's not like GDP. Like some people, I think, look at the stock market and think that's our gross domestic product. That's the American economy. It's not. It's those companies which have international operations too,
Yeah.
their growth.
Okay.
And so it's just a snapshot of those specific companies, their growth over time. So I don't know, like everybody always says that. They're like, guys, I am old enough, and I'm not old, but I'm old enough to remember when the Dow crossed 10,000.
I remember that.
When it went to 5 digits from 4. And that was a big deal. And man, that wasn't that long ago. I mean, considering
it was like 06-ish.
Yeah, it was during Bush.
Yeah.
During Bush's term.
It was before the crash.
Yes. 408. And yeah, like you said, in 2017, which I picked January 2017 because that's when Trump's first term began. It's nearly 20,000. Highest point over the time was in January of 2020. So Trump is still in office, and it was 44,000.
And then we know what happened shortly after that.
Yeah. So, and then COVID happened, which it's funny because you talk about people, both parties exaggerate. I saw a post this past week, and this is a Democrat, it was a liberal, and they said the last 7, since the housing crisis, the last 7 biggest single day drops in the stock market happened under the Trump administration.
I saw that.
I did not go back and fact check that, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's true. But you know what? Number 7 on the list was just last week. And that's obviously the onus for the story and why they were making this post. The other 6 were in 2020. And I don't care who the president is in 2020, the stock market's going to have several big single day drops when you're shutting down the economy.
But now we're finding out that it was all intentional.
Well, yeah. I'm not even
So
arguing.
but my point to that person would be, you guys are the ones that did this.
Yeah, but they're not going to hear that. I'm just saying, like, you're going to exaggerate things and be like, and the post said, "Are you tired of winning yet?" And I'm like, come on. Like, that kind of stuff angers me, but it shouldn't. And that's what I mean. Like, but then look at the entire graph of the stock market
Right.
over that time. Like we're saying, when Trump was inaugurated for his first term, we're at 20,000. When he's getting to January of 2020, leaving office a year later, it's at 44. Like 24,000 point, more than doubled in that time span.
I mean, overall,
that's why he needs to go back and make those tax cuts permanent, because that's the type of growth I'm talking about.
But it's coming, though, right? He's talked about making the tax cuts.
I hope so, but he's not talking enough about it for me. I want to hear less about tariffs and more about making the TCJA permanent. Because also, it's not just like the companies that are represented in the DJIA, the Dow Jones, will benefit from those. What's going to most benefit is all the businesses you drive down when you drive down Main Street. Your buddy who has a lawn business.
Yeah.
All of these, we call them in the tax world, we call them pass-through entities. And it's these people who, they may have their LLC, but that's their business. Those people that have those LLCs as their business, those small businesses that are, promoting and supporting your local rec leagues and got the names on the back of the jerseys.
Right.
Those size businesses benefit the most from the TCJA, and there is a huge tax deduction that they got from that that's going away after next year. Like, I need to hear more about that. Tariffs, cool.
Are you talking about it's going to go away January 1?
I don't know. I think it expires in like June of 26.
Okay.
So we got about a year left. I mean, no. It expires at the end of 2026. So this tax year and next tax year, then it's gone. Then it sunsets and it's out. So I don't know why I said June. That would make no sense.
I would have believed you.
It's calendar year.
I would have believed you.
Don't believe.
Well, I think I agree with you in that sense. I think he does need to talk more about tax cuts. I guess I didn't realize that it was that close to going out. For some reason, I thought 28 was when it went out.
No, everything's done at 26.
Okay. Well,
and that includes
that does line up with midterms, though.
That includes your doubled up standard deduction. So that affects just individual taxpayers if you got a W-2 job.
Well, by God, he better start talking about that.
Like right now, if you're a married couple filing your return jointly, which you should, your standard deduction is $29,200 this year. Like, so round it up, 30 grand, whereas it used to be like 12. It doubled. Now, if you are someone who has an expensive home and pays a lot in property taxes and gives a lot to charity, you can get to that 30,000 using those deductions. But if you don't, like say you got a good interest rate, and say you don't get killed on property taxes, which those are capped at 10,000 anyway, and say you give some money to charity, but not $10,000-$15,000 to charity every year, then that $30,000 deduction is huge.
Yeah.
That thing's about to sunset and go away.
That's a big thing for me.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how these tariffs play out, and it'll change in a week. By the time we record again, there'll be something different. That's the thing.
Like I'm loving like just finally having the conversation, because tariffs have been in the conversation for a month now. It's April and we're just now talking about it on the pod. But like you say, we'll give it a couple weeks and there'll be some new developments and we'll see where this thing's going to go and how the stock market has reacted to where this thing's going to go. But I will tell you this, if you get some certainty from the White House on this is the direction we're headed, this is what we're going to do, you'll see the stock market sure back up and grow right back to where it was.
Right.
And get past that.
I don't doubt that that's coming.
Yeah.
I didn't believe whenever I saw the whole Black Monday stuff. I didn't believe it, because that's why I even put on there, did Black Monday actually happen on Sunday? Because it's like I saw they were like, oh no, the Asian markets are opening up and they're dropping 50-60%.
Well, the Dow futures were expected to drop 1,700 points on Monday morning. Now, by 10 p.m. Sunday night, that had lessened some and it was down to like 900. And so when the market actually opened the next morning, it was still almost 1,000 points. And then like you have
by Tuesday it was back up.
Yeah, well, by Monday afternoon, we gained 600 points back. Like it's a fickle thing.
Right.
But it has almost everything to do with confidence. That's why every time the FOMC says we're not dropping interest rates, the stock market drops. That has nothing to do with like the White House's economic policy. The FOMC is completely independent, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump. He would love for them to do what he says.
Well, and he's been saying that lately.
He wants them to do, yeah, but they won't do it. Jerome Powell is independent. The FOMC is independent, and that's just an independent board of governors, of the Federal Reserves. And when they say, nope, we're not dropping rates this time, the stock market's going to drop that day, and then it's going to come on back. Because they're just showing their disapproval, because if you drop rates, there's more capital. The economy is more liquid, and you get more capital in the economy, which capital is what drives up the indexes of the stock market. So it's a fickle thing. Lots of things cause it to go up and down. And my constitutional litmus test, I would say the same thing. The stock market grew under Biden.
Right.
Like, not as much, but it grew under Biden.
Correct.
And so, like, I would say the same thing under Biden when there was a drop. Like, it's just, you gotta really take it with a grain of salt. You really got to take a step back and see the whole big picture.
3 things I want to talk about before we get off. 1, I'm anti-war. I don't want us to go to war. There's a lot of war hawks out there talking about incoming attack on Iran. Kind of hear it in the.
Are they talking about it on the signal chat you're on?
No, but you just kind of see it in the socials.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I
just hope, like, if it does come, I hope that Trump is enough anti-war to be extremely surgical with it. Like, Iran has one gas refinery, blow that sucker up, and you put them back in the Stone Age. That gets their attention. But I'm not saying I want that to happen. I just think
I hope if we go to war with someone, it's going to end up like Afghanistan again.
Yes.
And that is terrible.
Here's my...
Please learn from what we've done in the past. Please. I can't tell you I know our audience is not huge. We have a small pinky print. But anybody who listens to us and they say, hey man, you guys haven't talked about this enough, or you haven't talked about the war enough, you haven't talked about the veterans enough. I had a conversation just this weekend with a guy who came back and didn't serve in the group that we would have served in, but just in the last 5 years. He's like, man, Afghanistan was a total mess up, man. Yeah. It was a mess up from the time I got there, from the time I left, and the withdrawal was awful. He was one of the guys I talked to this week was actually there.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was awful. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen some horrible things. We have to learn from that. I don't know if we want to dive any more into that.
I just got one thing to say, and it's really just one complete thought, and it's my thought, and I own it. I'm not saying anything negative at all. I think our military is extremely talented, extremely powerful, extremely brave. I mean that. I'm not just giving lip service to that. I genuinely believe that. I don't think you can win a war over there.
Me either.
It is a religious purpose. You could go bomb the entire thing and obliterate every single person over there. And all the people in the rest of the world who are of that faith, who live there, would go there and just repopulate it, build it back up again, and you'd have the same thing. I don't think you can fight enough, bomb enough, or do enough to win that war. I don't think it's possible.
You're not going to get an argument out of me on that.
I'm not saying anything negative at all. Our troops we are tactically superior. We are braver. We're bigger. We have more stuff. I don't think it's possible. And maybe I'm a jaded kid who graduated in 2001 and 9/11 happened 4 months later. Maybe that's me, and maybe that's just my brain, but I don't think it's possible to win a war over there. And we haven't yet.
No one has.
No one has.
And we've been fighting over there for tens of thousands of years.
It's another big army. Ask the Russians how they did in Afghanistan.
Number 2, I'm following Texas politics. Someone asked me today if we were going to talk about it. The answer today is no, because I want to see something happen before I voice an opinion.
Sure.
There's a lot of banter going back and forth between each party. Greg Abbott is putting out a lot of his side of the whole vouchers. If he had the votes, he would have already taken it to the floor to vote. That's my opinion on that. And
I
then
only got till June, and it's April.
And he better get going pretty quick.
Yep.
Unless he's going to call him back for another special session.
He will.
Which is
14 of those.
Which is a whole nother topic of conversation for another day. The last thing is we had another measles death.
Yeah.
And RFK attended the funeral.
Yes.
I didn't see that on the socials as much as I thought I would. It was there. I tuned in and I saw it. This was also a religious group.
Same group. As the first death.
Take care of your kids, please. Like, I understand the whole vaccination argument. I get it. I'm there. I have kids. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this a little bit. But this is a preventable one, right? It's been proven for a long, long, long time. Do your research. Make sure you're making the right decisions for you and your family. But man, if you can do, like, I equate it to when my son had his surgery. We could have done nothing, and he would have died. That would have been the outcome. Please just read, be educated, and then, like, when you see these parents being interviewed, nothing against them. I don't know them, never met them in my life, but when you say I wouldn't have done anything different, when you're,
this kind of ties to the first thing you brought up. It's a religious thing, and you really just can't fight against it. There are people who will leave that religious community over this, just like there are people who will see jihad over in the Middle East and leave over that and become westernized about that. There are people who will do that because of this. But in general, most of the people in that Mennonite community in West Texas are not going to change a thing about what they do.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can be, I don't want to get too religious, but God puts stuff in people's minds for a reason. Mm-hmm. And somebody developed something that can do away with something. Why not listen? I struggle with that a little bit, because it's like, to me, that's ignorance.
Yeah.
And I know ignorance is bliss sometimes, because I'm that way. But it's like, come on, guys. Pay attention.
I didn't have RFK going to that funeral on my bingo card, and
me neither.
For all the idiots who are out there saying that he's the cause of this, like, no. These people made this decision not to vaccinate their kids long before RFK was on the map. Right. Or doing anything.
And I don't believe that RFK is 100% against vaccines.
No.
He is not. And he has said that multiple times. And I've heard him interviewed probably at least a dozen times.
There's nuance to it. You've got to listen to everything the guy says. You can't pull a soundbite out.
Correct. Because if you pull a soundbite out of our show too, we come off as Democratic.
All the time.
And we definitely are not those guys.
No.
But we are definitely not supportive of everything that Trump has done.
No.
And so I think that you've got to make sure that you're listening to the entire podcast. So I posted a thing on TikTok, and it was about Kid Rock. I don't know if you look at the comments of that.
I didn't look at it.
But somebody commented, was like, "Well, did y'all even look at what they said about Zelensky?" And I'm like, I actually commented back, "Sure, we did talk about the reason why he was there. It was for price gouging of tickets. Go listen to the entire show." And so I was like, it's very obvious that people, we were tongue-in-cheeking in that clip. Yeah. And it's always fascinating to me, because, like, a lot of times, and this has been something that I haven't always done, but maybe in the last 2 years, well, since I started paying attention to reels, and I'm like, I listen to something, I'm like, man, that sounds very outlandish. Yeah. And then I go and I listen, I'm like, oh, they took it completely out of context.
Add a little context, right?
Add a little context to the conversation, and then you listen to it. But that's one reason I love what we do. Mm-hmm. This cigar is always one of my favorites. It was a little too much for me tonight, but didn't finish it.
Yeah, I like mine, the Romeo and Julieta Reserve. It was a good one.
Have a good week.
Too.